Well, so this afternoon, some parents are expressing displeasure of the government's decision to review the free senior high school policy. Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Opoku-Amankwa, tells Joy News in an exclusive interview that his outfit has begun a cost analysis on how to determine how much parents would have to pay as part of the cost-sharing modality. You can listen.
It's a bigger conversation. It's a bigger conversation, not only for GES, not only for the Ministry of Education, but for the entire country. And then what we will do is that for us on our part, we will start with the smaller ideas of looking at aspects of it. Today, for example, some of the discussions that I've had with my statistics team for them to do something for me is to do what we call unit cost analysis as far as educating a student is concerned. So we will do unit cost analysis, especially for the free SHS. So if we take Raymond as a student, starting from SHS 1 to SHS 3, we can do the analysis and then come up and say that, okay, to give Raymond quality education, it will cost this much. Within that cost, these are the items in the cost. Then we all put it out there and then say, oh, this item, I think we can make do of it. And it will not affect quality. This item, I think we can get parents to pay. This item, let's find some, let the regional, the district offices or regional offices take care of this, you know. So when we have done that, and we've all added our inputs into it, then we can all come back and say that, okay, for this, the total cost for educating someone in the free SHS, this is it. But we believe that if you take them item by item, these items, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. So at the end of the day, we can all agree that this is the amount that we believe that government should bear. You know, so those things are going on, but I believe that once education is not only for GES and Ministry of Education, it will be played into the bigger discussion for all of us to make our contributions.
Well, so this afternoon we're asking that big question: how much is the free senior high school costing the taxpayer? Let's bring you a breakdown of what's happening. There you have it. Except of the budgetary allocation since 2019 in terms of how much we're funding the free senior high school policy. And you can see there from 2019 all the way to 2022, the amount we allocated in 2019 points to some 1.68 billion Ghana cedis. However, that amount went up in 2020, where we allocated some 2.43 billion. It dipped a bit in the year 2021 with some 1.97 expenditure. But for now, in 2022, per the budgetary allocations that we're learning of, it appears that the figures are moving to 2.3 billion. But in terms of the weight of education itself on the expenditure of government, there you have it on your screens. We have, obviously, the total expenditure in terms of 2019 amounting to some 12.9 billion. Then we have 2020 with 11.6. And in 2021, it was 15.6 billion. And where we are now in 2022 with some 17.8 billion Ghana cedis. But that question in terms of how much it is costing an individual, how much government is spending on an individual student, there you have it, the total amount, 1,823 Ghana cedis. So that's how much we're spending on a child per year in terms of the cost of free senior high school when it comes to government's expenditure. But beyond that, we're looking at the possibility of a review in the wake of an IMF policy. Mind you, government has decided to engage the International Monetary Fund for austerity measures. So the question is, will government consider reviewing some of its subsidized programs or social interventions? That has been that big question. Here's the official response, for instance, from the Finance Ministry on that matter. And you have that on your screens right now, pointing out to the fact that the government, in its enhanced domestic program, has started a review of these programs, which is the free senior high school, to see how best they can be optimized and become more efficient. But many are arguing that, in fact, the signs were on the wall earlier. The finance minister, of course, announcing there in 2018 his personal view on what should be done about the free senior high school policy. So you have the SHS indicating that persons with the means should be given that opportunity to pay fees for the awards whilst government collects the data to determine segments of society which may benefit from that policy, because that argument has been made that the government lacks the accurate data on students that may genuinely be in need. But if we are about to carry out a review, what are the possibilities here? There you have it. Tuition fee either slashed or the issue of feeding fee attached. Now, on the issue of the tuition fee itself, we need to give you a breakdown, because that 1,800 that we're talking about, which is being spent on a student per year, has some dynamics. We've not factored in day students and boarding students. But let's move now to the issue of the day and the boarding school students, shall we? So in terms of the day students, they are paying less in terms of their fees. So if government wants to consider some sort of a review, the option is either to make the day students entirely free or subsidized. Then we have the boarding fees actually going for full payment while the day students are made free, or we have the day students or the boarding students going totally subsidized, and then we put some cost to the day students, knowing that they pay less in terms of their fees. So these are the options that are coming up in terms of how we should be treating all of this. And so, fortunately, there's a lot of reactions greeting this. One of the persons involved is the spokesperson for the Education Ministry, Kwesi Kwarteng, who's joining us right now on the Pulse. We understand that a lot of issues are flowing from that office in terms of whether or not the ministry in its own rights has begun that process of review as being communicated by the Ghana Education Service. Kwesi, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the Pulse. So I need to put that to you first of all before we even hear from parents on this matter. Is the government considering a review of the free senior high school policy?
Well, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers. Let me say that from the side of the Ministry of Education and the Minister for Education, Honorable Dr. Yao Oseduchu, who I speak for, there has not been any discussion as such. We have not had that conversation so far as a review, especially within the context of what it was placed, is concerned. That issue has not come up. As far as we are concerned, the free SHS, of course, I mean, beyond these challenges, is something that we are still, government is still funding, and the program is still there and is still working, and we are still working to make sure that it's better. So let me put it in a very proper perspective, that for the avoidance of doubt and for purposes of clarity, the Ministry of Education, which is the policy implementer, has not had such discussions when it comes to a review. Of course, I have just listened to what you played about a possible review of the Director General for the Ghana Education Service, and from the understanding I have, is an analogy he was creating. I mean, you and I know that when it comes to policy decisions, it has more to do with the president or the ministry or the minister. Of course, I mean, beyond that, you may have some other agencies that are helping with the implementation of the policy. Or when it comes to the policy decision, it is the prerogative of the president of the land, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the minister, Dr. Yao Oseduchu, and that conversation has not come up. So I just want to say that when that conversation comes up, probably we may look at it, and then all consequential decisions we may discuss it as a people. But for now, SHS is not under any review, especially within the context of the review that it was placed, where we are saying that parents are going to pay a amount or that amount. That discussion, we've not had it as a ministry.
The argument is you're being diplomatic about the facts confronting the ministry and even government at this point. You're cash-strapped. You may not be able to fund the policy going forward. And for some as well, the signs have been on the wall looking at what the finance minister said way back in 2018, that you would have to identify and operate with a targeted free senior high school policy. Why are you running away from the facts here?
From 2018 till 2022 is barely 4 years. Why are we still running the program? If it has got to do with government being cash-strapped. Of course, there may be challenges with the policy. Even before free SHS, there were still challenges within the education system, especially at the SHS level. That is why we are there as leaders. When there are challenges, we will solve it. And that is the beauty of leadership. I am not sure it is an issue of the states or the country not having money. Of course, if you want all of us to have that broader conversation about alternative funding or funding in general about the free SHS policy, it is something that everybody will embrace. We are all Ghanaians. We can look into that. But so far as I am concerned, the briefing I have from my minister, the position of the ministry is that the policy is not under review.
Yeah, but you hear, for instance, but you hear, for instance, from the Director General indicating clearly that this conversation goes even beyond the ministry which supervises his organization. So it appears this is an elaborate plan by government to review the policy, which you may not be aware of because you are at the Education Ministry.
I speak for the Minister for Education. I don't speak for myself. I speak on authority. I speak for the Ministry of Education. And at least I should be giving that benefit of the doubt of having known my facts. Come to speak on such a sense. But what is most important is that at the end of the day, the facts are clear that the policy is still running. We, as a ministry, will do everything best, just like the minister have always been doing, to make sure that we make the policy very progressive, increase access, open access, make sure that there is quality, so that the socio-economic transformation that we want as a people, we get it. When there are challenges, we will fix it. When those challenges requires that we consult the entire public, the Ghanaians, we have to do that. But of course, when it comes to policy decisions, largely it comes from the executive. And I mean, if you listen to what the Director General of GES said, he was only drawing an analogy and if you like, call it an assumption, certain assumptions, that these are the possible options if you consider reviewing. I'm not sure that could be a basis for anybody to conclude on absolute terms that he is saying that there is a review. No, that cannot be an entirely accurate statement. There is a more reason why the Minister for Education has directed that at least we give that clarification to clear any form of doubt that people probably might have gotten from what the Director General said. It is possible for people to misunderstand what he said, but at least we have come out to clarify everything. That our official position is that policy is not under review, and government is still bent on making sure that the policy runs. Of course, in the near future, if it becomes very necessary that conversation comes up, why not? We engage the media, we engage the public, we engage all Ghanaians, and then all consequential decisions that will come out from that engagement will let Ghanaians know. But as I speak to you in present, the free SHS policy is still running. Government is still paying for tuition, government is still paying for feeding. When there are any challenges, that is why we are there as leaders. We'll solve it and we'll move on.
Well, the argument is that future which you're referring to is here now. Is it not your conviction that perhaps in a few days from now we will be confronted with that opportunity to decide as to whether or not the policy should either be cancelled, reviewed, or changed in its current state as we speak?
I mean, issues about the futuristic issues, nobody really can predict. But as of now, I can say that there has not been any such conversation on the table of the minister. No discussions as such has taken place. Of course, I mean, issues in the future, when it gets there, we may have to look at it. And I will not run away from that if there was any such conversation.
Because you seem to be insistent on that point. So let me bring it up then. The concern, first of all, about the structure in terms of how we're running this policy called the Free Senior High School Policy. We understand from government that you're running a process where the Free Senior High School, for instance, is being run from the presidency and not directly from the Ministry of Education, quote and unquote, right? I'm correct with these facts, right? So if that's the case, why then should we be taking your word for it that the policy is not being reviewed?
Question, let me answer you.
Right.
I work in the Ministry of Education. In the Ministry of Education, we have a free SHS secretariat who has a national coordinator and 2 deputy national coordinators. There is a Minister of Education who oversees their activities day in, day out. So this whole point about is being run from the presidency, I'm hearing it for the first time. I mean, you can come to the ministry and check. But look, what is more important?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're making that statement, we understand that this is a flagship program. That's how it's been described. And per the, various documents or even statements that were made by some government signs on the flagship projects being run, and not just the Free Senior High School, the One District, One Factory, and some other initiatives, it's quite clear that this is at the heart of the presidency or the president's vision. And so the explanation we had was that this policy was going to run from the presidency. You can't contest these facts that are already out there.
No. I mean, granted, without even admitting that it is being run from the presidency. I mean, at the end of the day, what changes? It really doesn't change anything. The focus has been that Ghanaians, about 100,000 Ghanaians who ordinarily wouldn't have had access to their various secondary schools now have access. Cumulatively, between 2017 till now, that is about 5 years. That is about 500,000 Ghanaian students that would have just looked into their face and tell them that, hey, look, you are a Ghanaian, you qualified, but due to financial challenges, you wouldn't have the opportunity to go to our various secondary schools. I mean, we shouldn't, at the end of the day, belittle the excellence and the value that free SHS adds. What is most important is that at the end of the day, the free SHS policy is under the Ministry of Education. It is functional, it is running, there is a secretariat fully in charge for that. The Ghana Education Service is also there. They are also doing their bit. The other agencies are also there. They are also doing their bit. Today we have T-based service, which is also running the free T-based policy, which is also doing their part. At the end of the day, when there are challenges or we are confronted with challenges, I mean, I've always insisted that the challenges even within the educational space has always been systemic. It is not necessarily as a result of the free SHS per se. Especially, you may even look at, for instance, feeding, which we may recently have some challenges there. Before the free SHS, those challenges existed. If you look at books before free SHS, those challenges existed. Infrastructure, those challenges existed.
Yeah,
so this whole, let me land.
Yeah. This
whole attempt to try to, make it look like every challenge within the education system has location by free SHS is neither here nor there. But what is more important? What is most important is that we are there as a ministry. The minister is there to take responsibilities. The minister is there to fix problems. The minister is there not to complain about problems. Whatever challenge that we may be having with the free SHS, we are there to resolve it. But ultimately, at least for purpose of clarity and as a statement of fact, the free SHS policy is running. The over 100,000 students who did not have access to their various secondary schools in time past, cumulatively from 2017 till now, that will be about 500,000. This time around, they are having access to education. And for me, that is the most important.
Kwesi Kwarteng, let me ask you this question. What is the role of the Ghana Education Service, and how central is that role to the administration of the Ministry of Education?
Yes, Ghana Education Service, based on the act that establishes, I think it's the Pre-Tertiary Act 1024, is to regulate the pre-tertiary space. The pre-tertiary space, you are looking at it from KG1 up to the secondary school level.
So I'm glad with that response. So if this is the regulator coming out to say we're looking at the cost, we're looking at the, and this is the Director General. He says we're looking at the cost component, and what we're doing is that we want to see which component the parents can take care of. Between the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, the regulator, and a spokesperson for the political authority of the ministry, between the regulator and yourself, who should we take seriously in this matter, with all due respect?
With all due respect, I feel even this analogy is not fair. but at least for the purpose of Ghanaians, the larger community who I speak to, I'll answer you. For me, it has not to do with who to believe or who not to believe. Clearly, if you listen to the statement of the Director General of GES, he was not making a statement of fact, and he was not that very emphatic in absolute terms that there is being reviewed. I mean, play to ordinary Ghanaians. I mean, they are discerning Ghanaians, a lot of Ghanaians with conscience, and they will tell you that. Hold on, let me land. Hold on. The Director General was only saying, was drawing an analogy based on what he himself as a person has been doing in his office. At no point did he make any emphatic statement that the free SHS policy was going to be reviewed. Of course, it's natural for you to draw inferences and make implications about somebody's statement. But we are saying that for purposes of clarity, I don't know how that ultimately wants to be disregarded. And now you want to create a comparison of a spokesperson. Indeed, even if Kwesi Kwarteng speaks for the ministry, he doesn't speak for himself. He speaks for the Minister for Education. And you have been engaged me for the past 1 year. And I'm not sure you've doubted my credibility on what I say. I'm not
doubting your authority. What I am asking for is the rule where to situate the Ghana Education Service, knowing that it has legal backing. It has legal backing. Just hold on for me. It has legal backing to whatever decision it may take in terms of regulating the pre-tertiary space.
When it comes to even policy decisions, I mean, you and I know, we are Ghanaians, you are a media, I'm sure you even know better than me. Policy decisions, largely, even if you want to go into the details of it, has to do with the executive. For that matter, the president of the land and the ministry. We're happy, I mean, in this case, which happens to be the Minister for Education, Dr. Yaosedu. These are the only two people who ordinarily may make even pronouncements on policy decisions. So it presupposes that if you want to even use the root of logical consistency, what the Director General only said was to make a case drawing some extensive analogy, looking at the options that are available to us as Ghanaians if we want to make that route. He was not saying that clearly you and I know an agency cannot make decisions when it comes to policy decisions. So I know he's a professor, he knows even better than I do. And at no point did he do that. Of course, if you make that difference and create that conclusion, it's fair. But at least you should give everybody the right to fair hearing, the right to come out to clarify our points. And I mean, for God's sake, the ministry has been in charge of policy decisions, policy issues. Then I am here making a very emphatic statement that we are not going to review policy, and you are not believing that's fine.
Anyway, that's not what I intend to do. Actually, I'm just asking because I wanted to be sure if you have the authority and the backing of the Prof himself, who made that disclosure.
I have spoken to him. I have spoken to Professor.
And what did he tell you about the statement he made?
Professor Pokwa told me emphatically that he did not say that. He did not say that.
But he's on tape.
He asked me to listen to the video and draw a conclusion for myself. When I listened to the video, the conclusion was that I realized he was just making an analogy and if you like, some assumptions that he was trying to use in building his case. I mean, he knows that in terms of the structures, it is not an agency that makes policy decisions. Of course, I mean, per that logic, then NASIA will also say that tomorrow free SHS is coming back. NTC will also say that tomorrow free SHS is off. Sendlos will say that the free SHS is coming. I'm not sure that is what you want us to push.
This was the platform on which he made the very statement. Let me play that back to you. You listen to it once more.
I listened earlier.
And then we can all make our judgments out of it. I'll take your thoughts again. So once more, here's Professor Amankwa on the point.
Bigger conversation, not only for GES, not only for the Ministry of Education, but for the entire country. And then what we will do is that for us on our part, we will start with the smaller ideas of looking at aspects of it. Today, for example, some of the discussions that I've had with my statistics team for them to do something for me is to do what we call unit cost analysis as far as educating a student is concerned. So we'll do unit cost analysis, especially for the free SHS. So if we take Raymond as a student, starting from SHS 1 to SHS 3, we can do the analysis and then come up and say that, okay, to give Raymond quality education, it will cost this much. Within that cost, these are the items in the cost. Then we all put it out there and then say, oh, this item, I think we can make do of it, and it will not affect quality. This item, I think we can get parents to pay. This item, let's find some, let the regional, the district offices or regional offices take care of this, you know. So when we have done that, and we've all added our inputs into it, then we can all come back and say that, okay, for this, the total cost for educating someone in the free SHS, this is it. But we believe that if you take them item by item, these items, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. So at the end of the day, we can all agree that this is the amount that we believe that government should bear, you know. So those things are going on, but I believe that once education is not only for GES and Ministry of Education, it will be played into the bigger discussion for all of us to make our contributions.
Yeah, these things are going on. I mean, so it's clear now, right? The review is happening.
So you see, if you take the text out of the context, you'll be missing the essence of the conversation. Context is very important. I mean, even if you listen to the man, he keeps referring to me, I think. A lot of these statements are very subjective.
Kwesi, I understand. I mean, you're very good at your job. I appreciate that fact. But these are his words. He says, on our part, that's exactly what we're going to do.
No, I don't think this is fair. What are you implying?
No,
it's the same inferences. It's the same inferences that made you drew that conclusion that the GES man has said free SHS is being reviewed. I mean, you can interview him again, at least for purpose of clarity and avoidance of doubt. But I mean, the most important thing is that ultimately we take responsibility as a ministry for everything. I have spoken to Professor Kokwa Mankwa, and he's made this point clear. Of course, I mean, it turns out that his opinions did not stand clearer as matching or tallying with his intentions. And based on that, you may make those inferences. But at least speaking with him and speaking with the minister, the briefing I have is that the position of the minister is clear, that the government has not had any such plans to review it, especially within the context of the conversation that we are having. Of course, I mean, subsequently, such conversations come up. Why not? I'm sure even Prof, my good self, the minister, and yourself. I mean, first for Ghanaians, we'll look at it and then see the next week. But for now, the policy is not under review. For now, the policy is doing well. For now, the policy has been able to double up enrollment. For now, we have about 1.5 million Ghanaian students that are beneficiaries of the policy. We admit there are challenges, but we also admit that we are there as leadership to resolve them. And that is the state of the free SHS policy.
You agree that the policy as of now is facing some challenges, right?
Just like any other policy in the world, even if you want to narrow it to Ghana, free maternal care, how do you call it, transport, whatever, every other policy may have its own individual challenges. But of course, how you rate a policy is not about the challenges that it struck, but largely about the successes that those policies have and the impact that it has on people, and how you are able to galvanize yourself together to be able to respond to those challenges. Every policy will have challenges. Even sometimes the solutions to some policies or solutions to some problems itself has problems. It doesn't mean that the policy is not good. So we are there to fix challenges. That's why we are leaders. That is how come leadership is there. I'm sure even at Joy there, you may have your own challenges. Yes, till every morning you open your station and you give us the best of SMS, you give us the best of news, And so we appreciate it, in
Okay,
spite of all the many challenges that we have as a station.
Right, and I'm sure that you're well aware that the country is running back to the IMF. The one who's in charge of the kitty in 2018, the finance minister says you would have to do a targeted approach, and that was his personal view at the time in terms of running the free senior high school policy. We're rolling on an austerity plan in the few months to come. Don't you foresee that affecting the free senior high school policy, given the fact that in terms of allocation of resources, the one who is in charge and has the power to do so has expressed that opinion way back in 2018 by saying that if you give me the personal opportunity, I would say let's do a targeted free senior high school policy.
You want to push me to a very slippery ground, but I will waive that opportunity anyway. I'll just repeat how I answered this question. When you asked the question earlier, and my point was that even though he might have made such statement, it's the same finance minister who has been helping with the free SHS policy since 2018. Is free SHS still not being funded from 2018? So is words against actions. I end there.
Let me save you the trouble for now. Kwesi Kwarteng is the spokesperson of the Ministry of Education. Thank you, sir, for joining us. But